Good afternoon and welcome to our monthly webinar for District 7 citizens. This session is being recorded today. We have our special guest from the Kiowa Tribal Housing Authority with us, the director, Luke Toyebo, joining. I want to just welcome our citizens who might be tuning in on Zoom or on the YouTube, who will see this later on. This is a monthly webinar focused on services for our District 7 citizens. Some ground rules to the webinar. We're not going to allow everybody to have their camera on or their microphone on, but if you have a question that you would like to get answered to myself or the housing director, Mr. Luke Toyebo, use the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. All you do is just pull your cursor down there and you see a box as a question mark and it says Q&A at the bottom. If you'll put your question, that will do our best to get your question answered. So welcome, Mr. Toyebo. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Warren. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you very much. So yeah, this is Mr. Toyebo, we do a monthly service webinar just to talk about different services in the tribe. And I know that there are services that District 7 citizens might take advantage of in terms of like housing. And so we'll get to that point, later on, but just some basic questions to kind of interview you, let people know who you are, and just a little bit about the housing program. So I'll go ahead and start off with my questions real quick for you. If you would, just give us a brief introduction of who you are, where you come from, a little bit of your background, where you've worked previously, and, just kind of your general educational career path.
Okay, thanks, Warren. Just wanted to let everyone know my name is Luke Toyebo Jr., and I'm an enrolled Kiowa tribal member. And I come from obviously the Toyebo family. My father was Luke Toyebo Sr., and my paternal grandmother was Maggie or Margaret. She's from the Kuitone family. Jimmy Kuitone was around the Jimmy Creek area. And my paternal grandfather was from around the Rainy Mountain community in rural Kiowa County, excuse me. And then on my mother's side, my mother's maiden name was Sidongi. Mark Sidongi was her father. And on the mother's side, I'm from the Calisay family. So that's a little bit of my background. Rosemary Toyebo was my mother, and she is from that same area around the Sedan community, for those of you who are familiar with rural Kiowa County. And I basically was raised around Anadarko and grew up in Anadarko. My parents worked with the BIA. And so raised in Anadarko, went to University of Oklahoma, and then I basically chose, I don't know if I chose this, but God chooses sometimes career paths for us. And I wound up in Indian housing. I've been doing it for over 35 years. And I've been an executive director for several different tribes, including the Apaches, Tribe of Oklahoma. I also worked on the national level at the National American Indian Housing Council for 13 plus years there. I was director of their training, technical assistance, and field service operations. They're headquartered out of Washington, D.C. And then I've also operated my own consulting organization, and I continue to do that, Toyebo Professional Services, and have been doing that for the last, probably 14 years now, 17 years, I guess, excuse me. Time flies sometimes, but always had a background in Indian housing for the most part, and worked at all different levels, both as an exec director and as a trainer, as well as providing, probably well over 50, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 100 tribes in this country with different types of assistance through the years. Because when I worked for the national organization, had folks from Alaska to Florida to Maine to California. So I've been all over the United States and very familiar with housing, the history of it, and where we're at today. So that's a little bit about who I am.
As the director of the Housing Authority, what are your main responsibilities?
Primarily, it's to carry out the housing activities that we have in our Indian housing plan. We're required to submit an Indian housing plan through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is our primary funding agency. They're not the sole funding agency, but that's where you might say is our bread and butter. That's where we get most of our funding from. And so we have to develop plans that state how we're going to expend the funds. And it's my duty to make sure that gets done. And we've got a small staff here of about 15 people, and they are a great benefit to me, and they're able to help me along the way. And I try to provide them leadership and guidance and oversight. And I also have a 5-member commission that I answer to that is appointed by our tribal chairman, and then also affirmed, I guess, by the legislators. And so we have 5 that serve on that commission, and we have monthly meetings where it on the goings on. And those meetings are open to the public. We publish the dates and times, and we welcome everyone, to attend. Obviously it's hard for your district; everyone's scattered out, but we meet here at the housing office, and our housing office is located at 1701 East Central Boulevard in Anadarko. So we're not in Carnegie where the other tribal operations are. We're over here in Anadarko, and we have an office here. So primarily, that's what I'm charged for, is to carry out that plan. And ideally, the plan is designed to meet the housing needs of our tribal citizens. And for the most part, it's for our low income tribal members. Primarily funded by HUD. One of the requirements that goes along with that is it's income-based programs. And so I know that's an issue sometimes for our tribal members, particularly a lot of those who are out of this immediate area. And many of those, have been out of the area, have gone on to successful careers and are doing well, but they need assistance in some capacity. And sometimes we're not able to, because they fall outside of the parameters of the eligibility requirements. So that's one of the kind of a barrier. It's an obstacle we have to deal with. Its primary funding sources are all tied to rules and regulations that limit who we can serve. Not every Kiowa will be eligible for all of our services. So,
I got you.
but that's just in a nutshell, kind of what I'm charged to do.
As part of the Indian housing plan the tribe operates under, how does the Kiowa Housing Authority prioritize and manage those projects underneath the umbrella of the Housing Authority?
Well, right now, what we're focused on is we're working on some new houses. When I got here, that was one of the priorities, and there was a need for additional housing. Historically, I think the Housing Authority has developed some houses, but that was many years ago. To my knowledge, it's been over probably 25 years or so since we've had any new construction. And it's been probably close to 20 years since we were able to purchase any homes and bring into the program. And so right now, we don't have a large inventory. We've got around the neighborhood about 30 low rent units. We call them low rent, they're just rental for low income families. And they're, for the most part, they're in the Anadarko area. There's a few in Carnegie and Lawton, but primarily that's where our housing inventory is. And so, what we have to do there is to basically keep what we have in good condition. And so we do that through routine monitoring and maintenance of that. to make sure that the homes are being cared for and that we're making the repairs that we need to keep them in viable condition. And we've also been doing renovations as some of these housing units become vacated, so that we're able to come in there and update. A lot of this modernization hasn't been done in years. There's a lot of deferred maintenance, and it's not really anybody's fault. It's just how things came into fruition, and probably some of my predecessors didn't have the funds they needed to do everything they needed to do. So there's a lot of work that has been undone here for years, and we're trying to get caught up with that. So we've got to balance that with time that we spend on new programs. And so that's been a challenge for me as a director, is that how do you allocate time and resources? And sometimes there's grant money available out there, but we have to be careful and wise about which grant funds we pursue, because there has to be a need for it that's greatly going to benefit our tribal people, but also we have to be able to manage it in a good way, because that's one of the issues that our housing authority has had over the years. There's been some issues with the management and oversight of the funds, which has caused us to have problems. And, we certainly don't want to go down that road again. So I'm a little bit careful about which grants we choose, or how we go after funds. It's a little bit more targeted, and we need to have an awareness. So right now, what we're doing is we're building administrative capacity for all of our staff. We're training them on some of the requirements for these programs that we have, and so that we can ensure compliance, and we want to stay in good standing with our funding agencies. And so that's what we're doing now. But along with that is a requirement that we have to develop our own policies and such. So, our core program is NAHASDA, Native American Housing Assistance and Self-Determination Act, which is a block grant where we get an annual allocation every year. And the HUD doesn't dictate to us what programs we can pursue. That's up to the tribe. And so, but the thing is, for every program that we develop and offer to our people, we have to develop the policies and the program requirements, the applications, the forms, everything that goes with it. So here again, we have to be a little cautious in how we go about this. And so part of what I've been involved with since I got here a little over a year ago is updating our policies, creating new forms and procedures for how we operate here, and with the programs that we offer, so that we're able to carry them out in an effective manner, but also in a compliant manner. And so that's kind of been my priority, Warren, is to focus really on compliance and educate the staff, train the staff, bring everybody on board. And I've tried to be transparent with what we're doing here, so that everybody understands not just their job, but what everybody else is doing and how we work together. So that's what we're trying to do here, is to build a culture of teamwork, and I think it's working. And we're headed down the right road, but it's like everything else, it takes time, and it's taken us a little time. We've had to make a few adjustments here and there, but I believe we're moving in a good way, and we'll continue to offer the services that we've had, and also look at expanding and offering new services as we are able to do that. But I want to be careful with expanding and getting too diverse with the programs that we have. One, because of staffing. Right now we're stretched pretty thin, and if we take on more responsibilities, I could see us having problems with bottlenecks to services and things like that, and that's what we really don't want to happen. So that's kind of what we've done, is to just try to prioritize through an assessment of what's going on here and what needs fixing. And then, like I said, we are still focused on improving our development and construction, and that's something we've worked on. But with that, there's a lot to it. It's not so simple as just going out and building a house. There's a lot of environmental requirements and things that have kind of slowed us down. And then you get into the procurement area of contractual obligations and things. So but that's where we are with that, and we're continuing to pursue those projects.
So could you share some stories of success that you've had with your housing authority and how that has made an impact within our Kiowa communities?
Well, I think to me, the biggest thing that I see here, and you know, I think I can speak for the staff, but there, I feel like we developed a culture here that is very conducive to success. So that was my belief when I came here, was I wanted to embrace the staff that was here, and I wanted them to feel good about what they were doing and that we could be successful. Because let's face it, Warren, I mean, for years, our housing authority has not had the best name in the business. Let's just leave it at that. But that's one thing I wanted to change, because I've been all over this country and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly as it pertains to Indian housing. And I'm convinced that we can have a top flight housing authority, and we're going to. But I knew that it would take some time, and I was able to bring in some key people to help me, and I think we're turning that around. And like I said, it's been a process, but to me, that's the biggest success, is that we're changing the culture here, and we're empowering the staff to be successful, to do their job. They're learning, they're eager to learn, and they understand. And I've tried to be patient with them. I said, we're gonna have to, it's gonna take us a while, because I'm introducing some new concepts, and we're doing things differently than they had been accustomed to doing. But I try to explain why we're making these changes. It's not just because it's not just my way or the highway. It's because, either it's a compliance issue or it's a good management practice, but it's going to be effective. And they're buying into that. And so I think that's been the biggest success story that I've seen. And that goes from the housing commissioners on down. We've got a great group of housing commissioners, and they're eager to learn as well. And hopefully I've been able to share some of that knowledge with them in training and assisting them along their way. What we've tried, one thing we've done twice since I've been here, every summer, we've had a kind of like a planning meeting or a retreat, and that's been very successful. The first year, it was primarily just the new commissioners and myself and a couple senior staff. And what we did is we focused on policies. And so we spent 3 days there working through them. And then this year we reconvened, and we had invited all of the staff down for at least a part of the meeting. And we had some training there, some team building activities. And then we also had some brainstorming sessions and strategic planning, and looked at policies again. But I think it's been very effective. Everything I've heard and gotten feedback, it's been a tremendous success. And I think the staff really enjoys it, and I know the commissioners do, because I feel like it makes them feel like they've got a part in everything. And if you've got a stake in it and you're a part of the team, then you're going to share in the success. Also, if you have issues that come up, everybody has to own it. We try not to play the blame game here and single out people that make mistakes, because everybody's going to make a mistake. But I try to be supportive, and I let them know that we're here, explain maybe where the mistake was made, and then we'll move forward. But to me, that's the biggest success story here, is a change in culture of what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Okay. So we've talked about, like, you've kind of already talked a little bit about this, but I'd like to ask, are there any strategies being talked about to provide any housing services for tribal citizens that might live out of the designated jurisdiction?
Yes. So yeah, we've looked at that. One of the things that we need to understand here is, it's like everything else. it kind of boils down to funding. And the way the funds are allocated is based primarily upon, well, there's a lot of different factors, but numbers of tribal members and things like that factor in. But we look at tribal statistical jurisdictional areas, which is our primary or similar to our old reservation boundaries that we all know, and that's that's how the allocation is driven. But one thing that the HOSDA does allow is for us to be creative and to go outside of those boundaries for certain programs if we determine there's a need and we feel like we can execute that program. And so that was something I noticed right away. I think for the most part, I think tribes by and large stick to their reservational areas or their old jurisdictional boundaries. You see a few go outside of that. We'll have other tribes, applicants from other tribes that come through our office and indicate, we're out of our service area, so we can't get any help. Can you help us? And, we try to help those folks as well. I want everyone to know that we do have a preference system in place, though, that we have a preference for Kiowa tribal members first, because that's who the money's allocated to. Although we will help other tribes if funding allows, and they in their they're part of the process. They go through the waiting list and things of that nature. But I've had discussions about that, and right now one of the couple of concerns is obviously funding. Do we have the funding to branch out outside of our traditional area? And then also, how are we going to handle the logistics, which we're really not set up here for some of our programs to do that. So if anything that involves a hands-on approach, like we would traditionally think of housing as sticks and bricks, it's going to be hard for us to go outside of our traditional area. Now, there are certain areas in the state of Oklahoma that we could probably do that with, and it would be pretty seamless. But if you're talking about going out of state to some of the other urban areas where our tribal members live, it would be difficult for us to be able to do that in an efficient and effective manner. And so we have to be mindful of that, and we look at what we are able to do. And so one of the things we can do, that we're going to try to do, is to offer more financial assistance to those members. We can't come there and build them a house, but maybe we can provide them funds to help them build a house. And so that's one of the things, I've tried to do, keeping in mind that we still have to maintain some bit of control over that to make sure that the funds get to the party that it's intended for, rather than somebody else. In the day and age we live in, we have to be so careful about fraud and misuse and waste and abuse and things like, not to insinuate that any of our tribal members would do that, but other people, when you deal on like through the internet, things like that, you put yourself at risk. It's it used to be easy back in the day when you came in and you sat across the table from somebody, and you did the deal through a handshake, and you don't do that anymore. But so those are some of the things we could do, maybe monetary assistance, and we've kind of tried to do that. I don't know if you want me to go over some of these programs right now, Warren. Are we to that point, or?
Yeah, we can, if you'd like to. I guess that would be my next question. I think we can go ahead and talk about some programs that housing offers our District 7 citizens.
Okay.
So if you are, we can go right into that discussion now.
Okay, so that, like I said, that's one area that I saw in our plan that where we were lacking. Occasionally we'll get calls here at the office, people needing assistance or just inquiring about assistance, and they're outside of our general area. What can we do for you? And so right now, at the present time, with our NAHASDA funds, we do offer down payment and closing cost assistance. And so what this is it's what we call a forgivable loan, which is essentially a grant that we give to the eligible applicant, provided that they meet certain criteria, and then there's some restrictions that we have to place on their property as well. But it's up to $10,000. And what happens is they request this assistance, and what we'll do is we'll go through the eligibility requirements and the documents they submit, and if they're eligible, we'll let them know, and they're given a time frame which they can go out and secure financing to purchase a home or build a home. And so we don't get involved in that part of it. Each person has to stand alone and go out and get their own finance. Now, we can help to a point. If somebody needs assistance, we'll coach them along. They'll also be required to get some home buyer education along the way. Normally, it'll come someone in their area, or they can get it online. But what they can do is they can go out shopping, and then they'll have this letter or commitment that we're going to provide $10,000. And what it would do is it would help them purchase a home. And so what studies have shown is that in a lot of cases, low-income families are able to make their monthly housing obligations, whether it be a rent or a mortgage payment. But one of the things they struggle with is being able to save up enough money to be able to come up with a down payment. And so that's historically been a barrier, is low-income people cannot save enough because they're living paycheck to paycheck. Or if they try to save up, then something happens and they have to use their savings. So they don't have enough to put down to buy a home. And so this would help alleviate that issue. It would help them be able to go out and buy a home, provided that they have decent credit and can get the loan and are able to make the monthly payment. So that essentially is that program. There are, like I said, certain requirements, like they have to come up with 1% out of pocket. So for instance, if they bought a home for, let's say, $150,000, then they would have to pay for $1,500 out of their own pocket prior to or at the time of closing, and then we would pay the $10,000. So that's how that would work. And in exchange for that, we would put what we call a binding commitment or deed restriction on that home for a year. And what that means is that keeps them from selling it. If they attempt to sell it or were to sell it, then they owe us back all or a portion of that money, depending upon how long they kept that home. But that's available to our tribal members anywhere in the continental United States. And so I think we've had a few people that have taken advantage of that. Most of them, we get some from the Tulsa area in Oklahoma City, but we've had some. I know I saw one from El Paso, and there was one out in California. So we are doing some outreach with that, and there are people taking advantage of that program. It's important to remember that is an income-based program too, because it's funded through our HUD money. So just so you know, it's 80% or below of the national median income. And so, just to give a frame of reference, I think a family of four, 80%. Do you remember that? What that is? Is it 72, 70? I think it's around 70,000 maybe. Don't quote me on that, but just roughly, that's a ballpark. 70,000 for a family of four. It's adjusted. The more people you have in your home, you can get a higher limit. And those are updated annually by HUD. But that's based on the national median. And so that's a requirement for that program. But that's the main program that we would offer. We do have several more that currently we're not offering just yet, but we should be offering in the near future. Some of these are new programs. Some are programs that we've operated in the past that we're going to try to renew. And I'll just go through those two. How much time do we have, Warren?
We got about 15 more minutes.
Okay, so I'll go through these. One of the newer programs that we're going to have, and I'm not sure, I would say it's probably, the more we learn about it, it's probably going to be around the first of the year before we can offer this, but it's called the Home Electrification and Appliance Rebate Program. And this program is actually funded through Department of Energy. And so what it's designed to do is it's for homeowners, or it can even be people that are living in a home. They don't own a home with certain, like say our tribal homes that we have. We could work on those homes as well, provided they meet certain requirements. But essentially, I would say it's people that owns their home. And what it is, it's to try to promote clean energy to get people off fossil fuels, so to speak. So if you were to put in a new electric heat pump, you would be provided with X amount of dollars for that install. I think for a heat pump, I believe it's up to $8,500 per household that you can receive as a homeowner. There's a certain amount for electrical upgrades, and I believe that's about $4,000. The total for the home, the entire household, would be $14,000 if you were to get all of the rebates that you are eligible for. So, but it's important to note that would be for an electrical appliance. So if you're on gas or propane and you want to switch over, then you would be eligible. But it's something you should consider, maybe get some idea about what your utility costs might be if you were to change to all electric. But certainly it is there. And I think it's funding that we're not having to compete for. It came through a formula, and we'll be rolling that out here in like I said, probably around the first of the year. I would hope. We're just now into the application process, but we already know our funding amount. I think we're getting over $300,000 for that. So that's something I believe we would be able to offer to District 7, because we're talking about more of a paper transaction. Now here within our service area, we'll probably do more hands-on. We may even purchase and install them for them. For District 7, we'll have to come up with some alternative method where we provide that assistance. But I think we can still do that. It's just we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna do that logistically, through a voucher or something like that. We would do that. Now, one other thing I would note on this program, it's a little bit, the income limits can be a little bit higher than the 80%. Now, we can go up to 150% on this program, but at 80 or below, you can get 100% subsidy. But I believe if you go up to 150% of the median income, then you can still get assistance, but I believe it's 50% subsidy. So that would be cut in half. So the tribal member could still get some help, but they would have to pay part of the way. They would have to pay half of the bill. And so that's a little bit of a difference. But if you're below the 80% threshold, you can get the 100% subsidy. So that's through the Department of Energy, and that should be launching, like I said, hopefully around the first of the year. But be looking for that, more information on that. Another program that District 7 is the tribal funds housing program. This is a new one. And we just adopted a policy at our last meeting. And we've not been able to offer these funds yet, but we anticipate being able to do so. We have not received our funding from the tribe. We were in the last part of the last budget that was approved. And I talked to Speaker Primus the other day and asked him about this and to follow up with it. So as soon as we receive our funds, we'll be able to offer this program. And what's good about this, because it's tribal funds, we're not going to have, there won't be as much compliance requirements. We won't have to provide as much information. As far as District 7 goes, the component that the families in District 7 would be eligible for is the emergency housing voucher. And that would be, occasionally we get people in here that have had some type of emergency occurrence and they need immediate assistance. And unfortunately, without tribal funds, we're really not set up to offer that. It's not in our plan. And even if it was, we have to go through so much red tape, but they have to apply, they have to give us documentation, we've got to do the environmentals. It just takes time. And if you've been a victim of a fire or flood or tornado, you really don't have time and probably don't have access to those documents. So one thing I really was adamant about is talking to our tribal leadership and saying we need some funds that are flexible that I can use in these cases. And so tribal applicants would be eligible to up to a $500 voucher per household for occurrences such as this that they could use to pay for a motel room, buy emergency housing, supplies, and things of that nature. And so that'll be coming available hopefully very soon. The other component to that is a rehabilitation program, but that one, unfortunately for District 7, is not available in that district. But for District 7, emergency assistance will be available. And this can be used with I know the tribe has other types of assistance in this situation, but any little bit to me would help in that for families that are in that situation. So that's one thing we're really excited about. And then the last thing is we've offered this program before. It's through the U.S. Department of Treasury, and it's the Homeowner Assistance Fund. We've had to stop this program because we had virtually exhausted those funds, but we're getting ready to reopen it. And it would be, we were able to get an additional allocation. I guess some of the tribes either declined to participate or sent back some of their funds. So they redistributed these. And it's not a huge sum of money that we're getting. I think it's $40,000 to $50,000, something like that. But what we would do is we would make that available to families, regardless of location, but also we're going to limit this time to first-time applicants, meaning this program's been around a while, and we've helped some of our Kiowa families on more than one occasion. And so because I know there's probably tribal members out there that have never received help from this program, we're going to offer it to first-time applicants. So if you've never received assistance from housing, and what this program is it helps you make your mortgage payment. It helps you, if you're a homeowner, you got a homeowner, you have to own your home or be buying your home through a mortgage. And so if you have a mortgage on your home, you're considered a homeowner, and we can help you pay for utilities. We can help you pay property taxes. We can help you pay for insurance, and we can help you with mortgage payments. So I know a lot of our tribal members have taken advantage of this program. And so I'm looking forward to getting that probably, like I said, within the next couple of months, we should be back on board with this. So be looking on the website. We'll let it be known, and so people can apply for this program. And we're looking for first-time applicants. So if you've never received any homeowner assistance fund awards, please please fill out an application. And the income limits for this program, there are income limits, but these are the little bit higher income. It's the 150% of area median income, as opposed to the 80 that we're having for. So it'll allow a few more of our families with better incomes to be served. And it's been a successful program. We've helped a number of tribal members with this program already. But those are the three that are in the works that will be upcoming. And like I said, we already have the down payment that's been in existence. One thing I would add too is we really we've got a needs assessment or survey instrument, what you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. It's out there. It's posted online at the kiowatribe.org website under the housing tab. And we would really like to hear from our tribal members, and especially those in District 7, and find out what the needs are. If we can find out what the needs are, then that will give us a better idea of how we can strategically plan to address some of those needs, given some of the barriers that I've discussed in this call. But I feel like, there may be some challenges, but I think we can do more for the people of District 7, and I'm certainly willing to try, but I'm not in a position to say exactly what is needed out there. And it may be a situation where the needs are diverse and it's all over the board, but it might also be a case where there's a lot of similarities, and if we can see something that all of our, or a great number of our families need assistance with, we can certainly try to develop a program for that and try to find some funding to help out all Kiowas. So that's about all I had, Warren, unless you have any more questions.
No, I think for our citizens, what we'll do is if you or somebody from your department will send us that survey information, we will send it out in our monthly newsletter that goes
Okay,
out.
we can certainly do that.
And hopefully give you a little bit more feedback from our District 7 citizens, which I think we've been able to do that in the past. And one last question, are there any partnerships or collaborations that may benefit the Kiowa tribe with other tribes that are currently working or thought about for the future?
Well, I've certainly thought about that, and we're looking at that. One of the things, in fact, that it just kind of came about, we're planning to do, is we're going to host a joint training session here. We're inviting some of the other area tribes, and it's going to be for our construction workers to provide them with training they need to get certification in how they handle lead-based paint when they're doing renovations. And it's going to benefit us as a housing authority and the tribe, so that we can use our own personnel and do it in a safe way. It'll save us a lot of money because right now we're not able to do that, but we're inviting other tribes to participate. We're a member of the Southern Plains Indian Housing Association, and I participate regularly in those meetings. And I'm looking for things along those lines of how we can partner with other tribes. And like I said, part of this whole thing has been trying to, create a better culture internally, but also project a better image externally. And that's one of the things we've been battling is, the Kiowa tribe. We know we've had our ups and downs. I feel like we're on an upward slope right now, but people don't forget the Kiowa tribe. They don't forget their dealings with the Kiowa tribe, past administrations, and it's caused a reluctance on a lot of fronts, and it's made it harder here for us to operate. And I'm thankful for those that are willing to help us in any way and be partners with us. But that's part of what we're trying to do, Warren, is to be able to get to that point where we have the credibility to go in and people say, hey, I want to partner with the Kiowa tribe. I want to be with those guys. And frankly, we're not there yet. but we're moving in a good direction. So we will be looking at doing that.
Okay. I do have a question here. I guess in regards to down payment assistance, do
Okay.
citizens apply before going or getting a loan or after a loan?
It's preferably they do it before.
Before they get the loan.
Yeah, because we can do it afterwards. It's just, let me give you a worst case scenario that we get. I mean, it's somebody's already gone through the process and they're about to close on a loan, which means, this process when it takes several months, and they let it, like, they apply today and they're going to close on Friday. And then they get upset with me when I tell them we can't help you because it takes time. So the earlier we can know in the process, the better off you'll be. And I would advise, unless you've already, you're fairly sophisticated and familiar with the process, that you reach out to us early so we can help you along the way. We may be able to help you with coaching you in terms of the inspection, what to look for, because I want to caution people, the realtor is driven by a sales commission, just like a car salesman. So the more money they can get for that home, it's going to be more money in their pocket. And so they're not always going to look out for the best interest of our Kiowa tribal members if they're out buying a home. And so that's where we come in. We try to be an advocate. If it's doable, if it's close, we can go and help inspect the unit and maybe give you some ideas or kind of help you along as far as the negotiations process and that type of thing. So the earlier, the better.
Are there any banks? So here's a question here. If they may qualify for assistance with the tribe, but can't get a loan from a bank, is there any specific loan companies that you might direct them to in order to that might be specialized in working with assistance with tribes?
We can do that. We can't really go on and say this is our bank or so, but we have some that specialize in working with and we would encourage the applicants to reach out to us, and we certainly know those that are more familiar with our process, and it goes a lot smoother, and also the product itself. Because sometimes, especially people outside of our Oklahoma area that are not familiar with tribes and sovereignty, I've had this happen personally where we've offered down payment assistance, and I've had to basically educate everybody in this East Coast bank about what a tribe was and what we're attempting to do here. So it does make it very difficult. But there's a loan product called Section 184, Indian Housing Loan Guarantee. And that's a good product for Native American home buyers. And several of our banks here and mortgage companies in Oklahoma are familiar with that. They've come by the housing office and they leave their materials here. And so those ones would be, to me, better. I'm not saying they're going to give you a better rate, but they're at least going to be more familiar. And that's one of the things if you're not familiar with buying a home, it can be a daunting process. It can be intimidating. They're talking a language you're not familiar with, and you're getting ready to make probably one of the biggest decisions of your life and agree to sign your name to pay for a whole bunch of money. And so you need to feel good about it, and you need to feel like somebody's in your corner. So we're willing to help out and be that advocate. But yes, there are certain lenders that we're aware of. Certainly, they're not the only ones, but those that we've had success with before, and we feel like they treat our people in a good way and they understand our process.
So one last question on the down payment. How long does it take to process an application if a citizen was to submit one? And is there a current waiting list?
Generally speaking, it's not a long process, provided that they get their paperwork in.
Okay.
And there's certain documents that we'll need to have, your IDs and your income, and if you're a property owner we'll need your ledger from the BIA. And so that's really what takes the time gathering that. But if you can get all that information in, I would say I think 2 weeks is plenty. time for us to get that and to be able to make a determination on eligibility, provided that there's not a long delay in getting the information. So yeah, it's not a long process. There is a little bit of a waiting list, but as of today, we're getting late in the year. We should meet our targets for this year, our target numbers. But what happens is just because we've approved somebody, I don't really know the success ratio, but it's probably, you know, maybe 50%. Those that we approve that actually are able to get the loan. So even though there's people that have been approved, I go ahead and take more applications because, you know, a lot of them aren't able to get the loan, or they, you know, don't find the house in their price range for whatever reason. And so we go ahead and take applications. So if you want to submit, but I would encourage you to get it in if you're contemplating about that, because we're getting toward the end of our funding year. Our program year runs with the calendar, so it's not with the tribe's fiscal year. So we're January to December, but we will start funding again in January 1. So I wouldn't wait. I'd go ahead and get that. And like I said, sometimes it'll take 2 or 3 months to buy a home. You know, when you submit, you got to go out and shop around and look around, and then you make an offer, and then you go to the loan process and underwriting. It takes a while to close.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Toyebo, for your time today. We appreciate you answering our questions, and this is really good information to share with our citizens. I wish there would have been some more citizens attending, but we'll definitely get this on the we'll get this on our YouTube channel and tell our citizens to go on and watch it, and hopefully definitely send out the information about the survey for our newsletter this month. So this has been a good collaboration, and appreciate all that you do. I know working for our tribe is not always an easy task, but it is good work, and you're making an impact in the community. And so I appreciate everything you do with your directorship of our housing authority. So any final comments before we close out?
Well, I appreciate those kind words, and thank you for having me, and you know, looking forward to more success, and we're excited about the future here at Kiowa Tribe Housing Authority. And thank you, and have a nice day, everyone.
Yeah, you too, Mr. Toro. We'll see you later, and thank you all to the citizens for listening in and for your questions today. And like I said, if you need to review this, it'll be available on our District 7 YouTube channel. We'll also send out a link in our newsletter so people can watch it from there. And as always, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Check our website out as the tribe's website. You know, they put information out on the Tribal Housing Authority website. What's that address real quick, Luke?
It's just the KiowaTribe.org website.
Okay. It's
on
the Kiowa Tribe.
Yeah,
on the
we don't have our
KiowaTribe.org
own site anymore. We're with the tribe. We're under the tribe.
Okay, good deal. Well, you can check their tribal website out too if they've got applications posted out there or any new information. So
yes,
thank you all for your time today, and we wish you a great and hopefully cooler afternoon. All righty. Thank you. Bye.
I hope.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Breezy.
Thank you.